Ladies, what is going on with your money? Are you ready for tax season? Because it is nearly upon us. What about work? Do you have goals, plans, projects? Wouldn't that be nice to go to work with purpose? And how about the house? Are you saving for a down payment, or are you planning to pay that puppy off early? All good questions. Penetrating questions, probing questions. Yes, I ask nosy questions at the beginning of every single episode because I love you. Did you know that 68% of Americans don't want to talk about money? We collectively suck at managing money. Oh, pardon my language. We stink at personal finance. We stink. Just think about it. 8 out of 10 of the families on your street live paycheck to paycheck. That means if a Friday comes around and there's some kind of payroll problem or the bank has some kind of paperwork snafu, you're in a crisis. How about student loans? Did you know the average monthly payment is nearing $400? Ay, ay, ay. And one of the leading causes of divorce in America today is over money fights. Oh, so it just breaks my heart. That is why I do this show. It's so I can help share our mistakes and pray that it gives you some encouragement, some practical training, some good takeaways that you and your spouse, if you're married, can take to win with money. So let me ask you, was 2020 terrible financially? If 2020 stunk, there are things you can do to make sure 2021 does not share the same fate. I wrote an article that got published in Relevant Magazine this week, and it goes through all the details you need to know. So check it out. I will link it in the show notes, either on your podcast app, on the YouTube channel, or just go to the website and you can find everything, katihyershow.com. I write about this stuff because I'm passionate about it. It really bothers me to see people paralyzed by anxiety over money or fighting with their loved ones because of personal finance or just stymied in their careers because they don't know how to negotiate or ask for a raise or walk toward a promotion. That makes me crazy. So I'm here to help. We are going to dive into each of these topics on future episodes. But I like to talk about personal finance, careers, and relationships because those are the areas that money touch. Super important. And one of those places that often just perplexes is real estate. It's so murky and mysterious. How big of a mortgage should I take out? For how long? What kind of loan should I get? What's a closing? What is title insurance? Who knows what I should do? I'm getting different advice from every area. If only there was some scripture that could give us some advice. Is there anything that can help? I'm glad you asked. In the book of Proverbs, verse 16, chapter 31, we hear, "She considers a field and buys it out of her earnings. She plants a vineyard." Now we're talking. The Proverbs 31 woman was in real estate. She considers a vineyard. She considers a field and buys it. With her income, she plants a vineyard. So she buys real estate and builds a business on it. In one of the translations of the Bible that I was reading as I was preparing for this episode, it says she has a plan. She looks forward as she's making these decisions. Interesting. One of the other little nuggets of wisdom I pulled from this verse is that within the context of the rest of the 22 verses that make up the Proverbs 31 woman, you can glean that her husband is not a landlord. Her husband's not a real estate expert, so she's not in a family of real estate experts. He's a businessman in the city. And yet she buys a field. And with the fruit of her hands, as another translation says, she plants a vineyard. I find that encouraging because you and I don't have to be experts at commercial investment divisions or real estate trends in every market across the US in order to make wise decisions for our families and our houses. So, how do we start walking toward making wise financial decisions around real estate? Especially since I keep hearing the market's hot, you got to buy a house, you got to buy a house, got to buy a house, got to buy, got to buy, got to buy, got to buy. You know, people love you and they will say, as soon as you get married, as soon as you graduate college, as soon as you get that real job, as soon as, you gotta buy a house, gotta buy a house, gotta buy a house. And I am going to just give you some permission. No, you don't. Renters don't go to hell. I know it's a myth or often shared mythology that it's a bad thing to rent, but that's just not true. Renting is perfectly fine for the appropriate time. And you want to make sure that you buy a house when it is appropriate for you. So I want to just give you the space that if you don't understand something, whether it's real estate or investments like your 401k or your IRA or your 403b, or insurance or warranties, if you don't understand these things, don't buy it. There's a lot of pressure out there for you to buy something or make a certain decision. No. Pump the brakes. Feel free to slow your roll. Make sure you understand it before you buy it. A house is typically the biggest single purchase a person's going to make in their lifetime, and you don't want to make it the wrong way. So then the next question is, how do I know if I'm ready to buy a house? How do I know? I've been renting for 10 years. That's not how you know. Oh, I've been at my job for 5 years. That's not how you know. Well, I found the perfect house. Now I'm ready. None of those make any difference. There are just a few things that will determine if you are ready to buy a house. First thing is, do you have money? Do you have money? You need to have a down payment because a house, first of all, just legally to get a mortgage, you really need a down payment. But then a house is a colossal project of its own. You're going to have to replace air conditioners and roofs and fences and flooring and refrigerators. And you need to have that savings muscle built up so that when these normal, ordinary house expenses come up, you're able to do it. If you get into a house without being financially prepared to take on the responsibility that it is a house, it will be a curse, not a blessing. You know how I know that? We made a mistake of buying a house when we were not ready. We did. We made the mistake of buying a house when we weren't ready. We did not have a good down payment, and we were in debt. That's the next thing. So you got to have money. And then the next thing is you got to be at the right baby step in your process. That means, let's review real quickly the 7 baby steps. You're tracking along. Number 1, the first baby step is to save $1,000. This is so you have a little buffer between you and life. Just $1,000 makes all the difference. It stops you from living a paycheck to paycheck cycle, stops you from having to borrow anything, and it really provides a sense of calm and peace where living on the edge, it's really hard to find peace when you're just $10 away from bankruptcy. Baby step number 2, pay off all your debt, except for the mortgage if you already have a house. So I'm talking student loans, credit cards, HELOCs, payday lenders, old medical bills, personal loans, lines of credit, car notes, any debt that you own. You financed a freezer, financed a lawnmower, you've got stuff on layaway, whatever it is, clear all your debt using the debt snowball method, which is paying your debts off smallest to largest. That's baby step 2. Baby step 2 for us, by the way, took us 5 years of actively working on it. That was after 2 years of just barely treading water because we didn't make enough money. We had to figure out how to make more money so we could up our shovel to hole ratio so we could really make progress. Baby step 3 is save 3 to 6 months of expenses. I love this baby step. This is where you start to get real peace and padding in your life. Wow, to have 3 to 6 months of expenses just sitting in the bank waiting for you so you don't have any kind of emergency. Emergencies still happen. You still chip teeth the day before an interview. You still run over nails in the car and have to replace all your tires twice in a week. There are still tons of emergencies. Your tree falls on your neighbor's house. You have a hole in your roof the size of a basketball. Yes, all of these were emergencies we personally experienced, but they're not emergencies when you have an emergency fund. When an emergency happens and you have an emergency fund, it gets downgraded to an inconvenience, and that is just a wonderful place to be. Baby step number 4 is invest 15% for retirement. This is a nice one too. Now your money is looking forward instead of looking backward. Baby step number 5 is save for kids' college. This could differ for you. It's going to differ for you. It's going to be different for every family. That's why it doesn't have a specific percentage affixed to it. Save something for your kids' college. The whole point is help your child go from a child at your house to an adult in the workforce. How can you help them do that without having the chain of student loans around their neck? Whether they go to a trade school or community college or start working in a business right away or go to a traditional college, have some kind of plan in place. And if it's appropriate for your family, put dollars behind it. Number 6 is pay off your home early. This step is for people who already own a home and they're paying off the mortgage early. Did you know that the average millionaire pays off their home in 10.2 years? They don't keep it around for 30 years. They don't keep it around for 15. They pay it off in 10.2 years. Once you pay off your home early, all you have left to do is build wealth and give. Build wealth and give it all away. And I love baby step 7. We are going to have a friend of mine who is in baby step 7. She has reached the pinnacle. We're going to have her on to talk all things baby step 7 in a future episode, so stay tuned for that. So back to the original question, how do I know if I'm ready to buy? You need to have finished a few baby steps before you are ready to buy a house. Specifically, you need to be done with baby steps 1 through 3. So you've got your $1,000 emergency fund, and then you've paid off all your debt. You don't owe anybody, and you have 3 to 6 months savings. By the way, this 3 to 6 months of expenses in savings is your fully funded emergency fund. It is not a house down payment fund. If you use all your savings for your house down payment, then you don't have any savings, and now you're living on the edge again, right on the cusp of emergency. Just don't do that to yourself. I think it says somewhere in the Bible that in the house of the wise, there are choice stores of food and wine. Maybe it's oil and wine. Either way, in the house of the wise, there are savings. So don't use all your savings for a house fund. You need your emergency fund. And then on top of that, a house down payment fund. So once you're done with baby steps 1 through 3, then comes in the secret baby step 3B. Save for a house. You can pause retirement just for a year. You can pause saving your kids' college, a year or 2. You don't want to stay out of saving for your future, but for some people, saving for college and investing for retirement makes it just untenable to save also for a house. So it's okay to pause baby steps 4 and 5 if you're working on a down payment for a house. Now, what should a down payment look like? There are three numbers to keep in mind when you go to actually buy a house: 10, 15, 25. 10. You should have a 10% down payment on a 15-year fixed rate mortgage. That is 25. No more than 25% of your take home pay. That means in our imaginary budget that I've been using for the show, where you and I make $4,500 a month, we're married, then a quarter of that would be about $1,100 for your mortgage. And so you can see on the side of the EveryDollar app where it breaks out your categories into percentages: giving, saving, housing. In the current hypothetical budget that I've created, our entire housing is 32%, but our mortgage in this example is less than 32%. It's closer to 20% of your take-home pay. That would be in the gold zone. Now, what do you do if the house you want to buy is going to be, the only way you can afford it is on a 30-year mortgage, not a 15-year mortgage, or it's going to be more than a quarter of your take-home pay? Well, that means that you are putting yourself in a position where you can be house poor, and you don't want to put yourself in that position. So instead, figure out a different way to approach it. Either figure out a way to make some more money. Is it time for you to take on a side hustle, or can you sell some stuff so that you can save a little more for your down payment, so you bring your mortgage down, what you owe? Do you have a third car that you don't need and you could sell the car? That could go to your down payment fund. There are a lot of ways to do that. But maybe it's time to think about your next promotion, your next raise, a better job, a second job. Maybe if you're only working 30 hours, it's time to work 40 hours. Lots of ways to look at this. Another way to look at it that is not at all fun, but I'm your hypothetical big sister who's sharing her mistakes with you so you don't have to make them. How about you get a smaller house? If you can't afford the one you want, with 10% of a down payment on a 15-year fixed, where the monthly mortgage payment is no more than a quarter of your take-home pay, something's got to change. Either get a smaller house, save longer, or make more money. It's just a safe, wise way to walk into owning a home. And I know, because we did it the wrong way. We bought a house when we were in baby step 2. When you're in baby step 2, you are not supposed to be buying a house. You're supposed to be paying off all your debt. Well, we liquefied our retirement to buy a house, and then guess what? Now we're behind on retirement that we had before we started the baby steps. And, well, we had to buy a lawnmower, and we had to buy a weed whacker, and we had to buy stuff for the pool, and we had to fix the fence, we had to fix the roof, we had to buy AC units, we had to fix the wall, we had to fix that leak. Did I mention the $5,000 roof repair? If we would not have bought the house out of order, we would still have retirement working for us, just paused in the background while we paused our baby step 4. And we would have probably been out of debt a year and a half earlier, because even though the mortgage looked like it was about the same as the rent, you never pay for just the mortgage when you own a home. You're the one paying the plumber. You're the one paying the maintenance man. You're the one getting the heater fixed, getting the door fixed. You're the one who pays all the bills. It is always more expensive to maintain a home than to just pay the mortgage. So don't get stuck in the trap that we did, which was thinking, oh, rent or mortgage? Would you rather pay rent or would you rather pay mortgage? If you're in debt, that is not a safe, wise time to buy a house. It is okay to rent for a short period of time, especially if you are not ready. We didn't have an emergency fund either. So every time we had an emergency fund, we had to pause our baby steps. We had to pause our debt snowball and go fix some thing on the house that just made me roll my eyes in frustration that I got house fever. So, what about for those of us who are working on past baby steps 3, 4, and 5, and we're looking at baby steps 6 and 7? This is where you pay off your house early, and then you're in baby step 7, build wealth and give. A lot of people like the idea of real estate as an investment, right? Have a couple of rental properties. This can be a great way to have income during retirement, or even while you're still working, to have passive income coming in from your rental houses. I love this idea. I am certain that I'm going to own rental properties one day. So I am all for real estate. I used to work in the real estate world. I love real estate. Now, here's the deal. If you are buying real estate as an investment, a couple guardrails to keep in mind. 1, do it all in cash. And 2, never plan on making it contingent on a tenant, because tenants will break things. Tenants will pay late or not at all, and you'll have vacancy. So you don't want to take your retirement plans or your second income plans and make them force them to be in a posture of risk where you have made financial peace leave the situation so that you could somehow afford this house if only you had the right tenant. That's just not the right way to go. So think about it this way. If you're in baby step 6 or 7, all you're doing is paying off your house early. If you're in baby step 6, you have no debt, no extra bills. All of your income is working for you. Well, how quickly can you save to buy a small rental property in cash? Interpolate for your area. Of course, if you're in California, this is crazy talking. If you're in California, it's hard to own property as your own personal residence. If you're in California, you might have to move. It's just the reality if you want to own real estate on an average family salary. That's just the reality. You don't get a pass on math, unfortunately, just because you live in a different place. That's what happened to Dave and I when we moved to Paris, one of the most expensive cities in Europe, maybe in the world. We realized a little bit too late that we couldn't afford to live there. It's just too expensive. We had to move from our dream city. We had to leave. It just happens. Anyway, you're buying real estate in your retirement as part of an investment, or you're buying it now as an investment later, it needs to be in cash. Do it in cash. If you have no bills, can you save 10 grand a year and then in 10 years buy a $100,000 condo and rent it out? Absolutely. And if you have no bills and you love your career, can you maybe save more than $10,000 a year? Absolutely. Look at it in multiple ways. But don't mortgage yourself out the wazoo on a bunch of rental properties, hoping that your tenants are going to save the day for you. It's just a risky position to be in. And I want to help you be in a position of financial peace. Does that make sense? Let's look in the mail. This is the tribe question section. And I don't have a question, I have a statement. It's help! I have house fever. House fever. House fever is real. House fever is contagious. House fever is curable. Look back at that proverb again. Proverbs 31:16. She considers a field and she purchases it, and then with her income, she buys a vineyard. She plants a vineyard. She buys the field. She doesn't mortgage the field. And then with her income, she plants a vineyard. With her money, she buys the business to go on that piece of property. Move at the speed of cash. They are always making more houses. There will always be more houses. If you are in baby steps 1 through 3 and you don't yet have a house and one of your goals is to soon own a house, my best insight would be to unsubscribe from every Zillow, Trulia, Realtor, Redfin email out there. Take the apps off your phone, don't log in anymore, and stop watching HGTV and Chip and Joanna because you're just torturing yourself. Just torturing yourself. Don't torture yourself. Don't go to those DIY blogs. Don't go to those before and after do it yourself, how to turn your kitchen into the world's most beautiful Pinterest kitchen websites. Don't do it to yourself. On Instagram, stop following those influencers. Don't feed yourself with discontentment. Focus on the gratitude for the things you do have. I think I've mentioned this before, but one of the things Dave and I do every morning, he does this every morning. I sometimes do it every morning, is we start out the day with quiet time and write down 10 things that we're thankful for. Just starting the day with gratitude changes our minds, makes us focus on the happiness that we have for the things we already owe a debt of gratitude to God for. But I used to torture myself with blogs about home improvement, with shows about houses, looking through real estate websites all the time. And then what happened? We bought a house in an unwise way that cost us 1.5 years of extra work because of all the extra costs we incurred because we had to have a house. So give yourself permission to slow down, unplug from all of the things grabbing your attention toward buying a house and just slow your roll. It's okay. Right now, you're renting for a season, or you want to buy real estate in retirement or as part of your investments. Good deal. Do it in cash, do it slowly, do it with wisdom so it doesn't come back and bite you in the butt later like it did for some of us. I'm pointing to myself here. There will be more houses. There's always time to buy a house. It's okay to not buy a house yet. Consider your fields, buy them, with your income, plant a vineyard. Does that make sense? Just one question for you. Ladies, what's going on with your money?